And I know how difficult it is for you to find time. So we really, really appreciate it. For each one of you here, I would just like to say a little about our speaker, Sunita Menon. Sunita has a master's in professional counseling from Swinburne University, Australia. She's a certified sex therapist and have worked in Singapore before setting up practice in Chennai. She has worked with over 1,000 clients to enhance cognitive performance, mental strength, and to alleviate mental afflictions. Her approaches include cognitive behavioral therapy, person-centered therapy, transactional analysis, and solution-focused brief therapy. Thank you so much again, Sunita.
You're welcome. Once again.
I think we're going to start off. I know there are still people coming in, but I'm going to jump into it right away and ask Sunita something which sounds very banal, but I would like to start off by asking if you could explain in simple words, Sunita, what we mean when we say gender identity and sexual orientation. And just 1 second, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you before you started. I just want to put it in that our format will be, we're going to ask a few questions to Sunita because we think those are things that we would like to engage with, we would like to know, which will be followed by a Q&A time where you can ask questions in the chat box, so you can ask her whatever you have in mind. And the Q&A section will not be recorded. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay, sorry for that interruption, Sunita.
Any particular reason why the Q&A will not be recorded, or is that the norm?
Well, we just feel that people probably, it's kind of a bit probably intrusive when somebody might feel it's a bit intrusive to.
I think it's a brilliant idea. Because then people.
I think somebody is not on mute. Can you please mute yourself? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to start with gender identity and then move to sexual orientation.
Yes.
So I'm going to explain it just as I would explain it to a client in the clinic. So keep it as simple as you rightly said, Sonali. So gender identity, the first thing for us to remember is when a child is born, there is a particular sex that is assigned at birth. So we call it sex assigned at birth. So it is according to what the doctor sees. So if the doctor sees a penis, then the sex assigned at birth is male. If the doctor sees a vagina, then the sex assigned at birth is female. And if the doctor sees a mixture of male and female parts, then the sex assigned at birth is intersex. So it's as simple as that. Yeah. So, but this is your assigned sex.
Right.
But very often, the sex assigned at birth and the way we feel or the way we think or the way we express or the way we behave need not align with our sex at birth. So it's very important for us to remember that gender identity includes, besides sex assigned at birth, also the way we express ourselves, the way we feel about ourselves, the way we think about ourselves, and so much more, all of which together will constitute gender identity. So in which case there are many possibilities, right? So the first one would be someone is assigned a particular sex at birth and their gender identity aligns with that.
Mm-hmm.
Second possibility is a child is assigned a sex at birth, but the way the adult or child feels about himself or herself does not align with the sex at birth. It could be that of the opposite sex. That's another possibility. Yet another possibility is the way the person feels about himself, herself, or the way they feel about themselves might not align with either male or female. Yes? Or it could be a situation where someone does not want to, I mean, today they might think that their gender identity is male, tomorrow they might feel or think that their gender identity is the opposite one. So you can also be fluid. So nothing is really fixed. So we have binary, male, female, we have non-binary, we have people who move on the spectrum, gender fluid. So there are many kinds of identities, right? We just can't stick to the binary of male and female. So this is as far as gender identity goes. The next one is sexual orientation. Sexual orientation is the most, now the important thing which I must say in the very beginning is it's not a choice people make, sexual orientation. It's the way one is oriented. Yeah. So some of us are attracted to the opposite sex, what we call a heterosexual. Some of us are attracted to the same sex, what we would call gay or what we would call a lesbian in case it's a woman. Some of us are attracted to both sexes, what we would call bisexual. Some of us are attracted to all genders. When I say all genders, I mean male, female, intersex, trans man, trans woman, everyone on the spectrum. Yeah. So some of us are attracted to all of them, what we would call a pansexual. There are some of us, 1% of the human population is asexual, which means we're simply not attracted to another, irrespective of what the gender is. Some of us are attracted to others only if we have an emotional connect with them, what we call a demisexual. So there are different types and kinds of sexual orientation. That's the definition, that's the explanation I would like to give with regard to gender identity and sexual orientation. So all of us are familiar with the acronym of LGBTQI+, or QQI+. QQ could stand for queer and questioning. So it's really depends on how you want to write LGBTQ or QQI or QQI+. But we therapists, we also use another one, which is called the GSRB. The GSRB has gender, has sexuality, and also has relationships, because there are diverse kinds of relationships also. The most, I mean, the one which we are all aware of is that of a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. But relationship diversities are so common, and that's something that we see constantly in the clinic. You can have a monogamous relationship where it's one man and one woman, or you can have a non-monogamous relationship where both the people in the relationship also have relationships outside that primary relationship. So we also have relationship diversities. So while we speak about gender identity and sexual orientation, relationship diversities would be the third facet. But since we are talking here to educators and teachers, we might not, that's not something we would be or could be coming across, often or in a school setting. So I'm not going to go down that road of relationship diversities. We just stick with gender orientation and, gender identity and sexual orientation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I think this leads on to our next query that we feel is important for us to understand is that knowing all this, being aware of all this, what steps can the teacher take to make the classroom an inclusive one? How can she structure conversations around a topic where, by which she makes the students sensitized about this?
Making it an inclusive classroom, right? Essentially.
Yes.
So the phrase we use is, how do I queer my classroom? How do I make it a queer-friendly classroom? The first thing any educator or any teacher can do is educate themselves. That's the primary way in which you can make your classroom inclusive. The second way, which even we therapists do, we like I have a certificate. The certificate may be around 15 years old. I also have a rainbow flag. We always display it, whether in a clinic, so also in a classroom. I think it's very important for us to display some kind of a symbol in order to allow those who are in the room, whether it's a classroom setting or whether it's a clinic, that, hey, I am a gay affirmative or a teacher, or I'm a gay affirmative therapist, or I'm an ally. So putting some kind of a symbol is one of the primary ways in which you can show, because you don't need to keep telling everyone, hey, I'm gay affirmative, I'm gay affirmative. You don't need to go around saying it. Just put a symbol somewhere in your room, in your classroom, which says that, hey, I'm an ally, you have. So that's another way in which you can make your classroom inclusive. This is for the school itself, yeah, because I've been to a couple of colleges where I used to, in Chennai, where I used to be, I would go once a week to counsel the students. And the most common problem that I then saw was no gender neutral bathrooms. So that's why I said this is for the school itself, to have bathrooms that are gender neutral. And if you do have children in your school that are somewhere on this, either falling in the, with gender identity issues, it would be very nice for you to make accessible such bathrooms to them, and also make known to everyone that there are bathrooms that you can use. Uniforms, school uniforms, they should become gender neutral. That's another way in which you can make your classroom, your school gender inclusive. I mean, when there's a new student, the first thing when the teacher comes to the class and says, hey, there's a new kid coming today, the first question they ask is boy or girl. Yeah, and even when teachers divide the classroom into groups, it's boys on one side, girls on one side. I mean, all this is not very gender inclusive, right? Instead, we can use gender neutral words. We can group children according to their birthday, month maybe, or I don't know. We can find innovative ways in which we can group people. It doesn't have to be according to gender. So it's all about getting sensitive. And even when we use examples, we can, it doesn't have to conform to they had a son or they had a daughter, or, I mean, you can say they had a child. Let's include both. But I think this would be more appropriate for the high school kids, because sometimes the elementary school, I don't know how much they would fall in line with this particular practice. But it's very nice on the first day of class of school to ask the child what their given name is, how they would like to be addressed, and what are the preferred pronouns. Now, for any conference when we go, we all wear that on our badge, right? Our name, as in the how we are registered, how we would like to be addressed, and what the pronouns we would like to be used are. So if we start somewhere, from the basics, I think by the time the child passes out of school, it's a part of the system. They have learned to be respectful. They have learned to be sensitive, and they are also aware of everything. Is not about being binary. Some of the ways, and there are a lot of ways. I'm just giving you a few examples here and there.
No, I think there's a lot to what you said, Sunita. And as an as a teacher myself, it just struck me that whenever we group, why is it normally? I mean, the first thing which comes is, okay, girls go here, boys go here. Why don't we look at it like you said, maybe birth, months or something else? Those things don't come because it's so much of whatever you call it, conditioning in my mind, at least. So that's how. And
sorry, Sonali, to interrupt you. Even simple things like gender neutral, like not actor or actress, just say actor or artist or scientist, or we can use so many terms that are gender neutral.
I think this being really aware of language that I use, that's something which really goes a long way in making everybody feel inclusive. I mean, these are big things to think about. It sounds small, but it's really big, because it goes such a long way to make everybody feel accepted, loved, wanted. And that's the very basis. That's the first thing that you want. And only then any kind of learning can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So going from there, so we have all these, I was thinking about my misconceptions about, grouping, it has to be girl and boy. So I'm going to ask you, Sunita, that's leading on to the next question. What are, and you have this vast knowledge, vast experience of counseling, of seeing different kinds of people. So as a counselor, from your vast experience, what do you think are some of these misconceptions and myths which are common, which are prevalent about this topic? I mean, would you like to share a few of these myths with us?
Quite a few. Some of them are nasty. Some of them are hilarious. Some of them are heart-wrenching. I've had all kinds of myths and misconceptions here in the clinic, yes. But I'm going to keep it very, very neutral in tone. And I'm going to give you couple of myths with regard to gender identity and sexual orientation. The most common one, which combines both, would be a gay man is effeminate looking and a gay woman is masculine looking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said combining both gender and sexual orientation. Another one with regard, I'm trying to think here. One I already mentioned, right? When I spoke about sexual orientation, it's not a choice people are making,
Right.
but it's a myth that we can do what it takes to make them come back to what is the right way of being. No matter how many times we tell parents, especially in the clinic, that this is not a choice they're making, what's on deaf ears. So this is another myth. Like recently in my clinic, I had a parent ask me, is there any particular blood test I can do on my son? Because I don't believe him. I need it confirmed. I need a lab report to tell me my son is gay. Oh, or is there any doctor who can advise my son? And I mean, so these are some of the myths. And another common myth we see is that gay parents tend to have gay children. That's another common myth. Yet another myth, this is among my young clients, teenage clients, is, oh, Sunita, I think I need to have sex. Hey, Sunita, I think I need to be in a relationship for me to be sure about what my sexual orientation is. And that's a misconception too. You don't need to be in a relationship. You don't need to experience sex in order to know what your sexual orientation is. The moment you are aware that you are sexually or romantically attracted to a particular sex, or, that itself should tell you the way you're oriented. Another myth among the younger clients I find is that there is a timeline with regard to when I must know for sure, when I must decide what my orientation is. And so they put a lot of pressure on themselves. By the time I'm 15, or by the time I'm 18, or by the time I'm 21, I should know. Hey, there is no timeline for this, right? You can take a lifetime to figure this one out. And we have cases where they have changed their mind. Like I've had gay clients who then realized that they're bisexual. I've had bisexual clients who have realized that they're pansexual. So it's all kinds. There is no timeline. And it doesn't mean that if you are fixed on this, you cannot change your mind. You can change your mind at any point. So that's another myth I find, that youngsters put a lot of pressure on themselves about, I must decide soon. Another myth is, I must come out ASAP to my parents. Now, now I'm going to a little bit say this. If now with regard to gender identity, if I have clients who want to try, move from male to female, they want from a man, they want to become a trans woman. That means they want to move from a male gender to a female gender. Then obviously at some point they might look at surgery, they might look at hormone therapy. There are a lot of other factors, right? And even legal ramifications. They might want to change their name. They might want to change their sex on their birth certificate. So when it involves legal, complexities, or when it involves hormonal changes, surgeries, etc., at that point, yes, my clients need to come out ASAP to their parents. Because all of this is a lot of money and there are legal questions to all of this. It's a legal angle to all of this. So at that point, yes, then I tell them, yeah, we need to have some kind of a time frame. Maybe we need to talk about it. Maybe you need to get the family in. But otherwise, there really is no timeline. You don't have to run it, against the clock that I need to hurry up and tell people, I need to announce to the world. It's nobody's business really, but your own. So these are some of the myths and misconceptions we see every day at the clinic. Not every day, every other day at the clinic.
Yes, Sunita. So you said that you don't have to, the misconception that we have to come out, have to over there. But I was just thinking that supposing if some student has come out. Now I'm looking at it from the teacher's point of view. And my question to you is, how does a teacher make a student comfortable? How does the teacher make the student comfortable when the student comes out?
To the teacher.
To the teacher. Or when a student is grappling with some confusion about their sexual orientation. That's the first part. And the second part is something a little personal, is if I as a teacher, I feel uncomfortable with the topic, how do I deal with it? Faced with such a situation, what do I do?
I think some time ago, I spoke to you about this, Sonali, where I told you that even as therapists, perhaps we see more than you all see, right? People with gender identity issues, sexual orientation, and relationship diversities. But we still don't know.
Right.
That's why when you said you're the expert, no, we're not. We're simply not. We're learning. Every day we're learning. And trust me, every client who comes from this community, we learn more from them than they from us. We're learning. We're constantly learning from them. So which means that because we're learning, we're also constantly making mistakes. But the amazing bit is when we establish a rapport with our clients who come from this community, they are willing to handhold us just as much as we handhold them. They educate us. We lend them our ears, we lend them a hand, we walk with them. So we are constantly learning. What I'm trying to say is we're constantly making mistakes, and there is no shame in showing our ignorance. I think the important thing for us to convey is our support. Unconditional support. That's the only expectation they have of us, to be unconditionally supported. So as a teacher, as an educator, maybe the first thing you can do is, instead of telling, is asking. How can I help you? How may I support you? Because they will tell you, they will handhold you, and they will tell you ways in which that you can be of help to them. So just ask. Yeah, so it's always nice to ask, and then you can give what they're looking for, or what exactly they want from you, rather than you groping in the dark and just giving things to them which perhaps they don't need at all. The other question you asked me was with regard to if I'm not comfortable with it, is it? And
yeah, that's right.
Okay, that would really call for some serious self-introspection, right? See, because gender identity, sexual orientation, and relationship diversities have evolved at a supersonic speed. Sadly, we have not kept up. Yeah. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this just once, that we live in a heteronormative, heterosexist world. And I think the onus is on those of us who belong to the heterosexual community to go out of our way to step beyond the heterosexism that we practice, to embrace all minorities, irrespective of what people's genders and what people's orientations are. So if we don't know, then we must do what it takes for us to know. And I think that's where your school management can help by organizing workshops in order to familiarize you with to sensitize you to gender identity issues, to sexual orientation issues, and relationship diversities. So the onus is very much on us to do what it takes to learn. And as we progress, we will make mistakes, but we will learn. We will constantly learn. We will push boundaries. We will ask questions, and we will learn to be more and more inclusive. It's a process. It's a journey. It's not going to, one workshop you attend is not going to change the way you think. It is just definitely, it's going to broaden your horizons, and it's going to want to make you learn more and know more. And the more you learn and the more you know, perhaps you might become more empathetic, and you might become more supportive and more sensitive. I'd like to believe.
Yes. The other question which comes to my mind here is, here in a, we are always, we work with the parents, or we would like to think that we work with the parents in the development and the growth of the students, because it's not like the teachers are the know-all and be-all. And so as educators, do we have a responsibility? Do you think that we have a responsibility to engage with parents about this? And what can we do in regard to this? What do you suggest?
Okay. On a lighter note, yes, many at least in my clinic, this is my professional experience, when my clients come out to me, usually therapists are one of the first people, besides a sibling or a close friend. Yeah. So it's one of these three invariably. So when they come out to us, and then many sessions later, we bring up this difficult topic about when do you want to come out, or do you have a plan? Because to have a plan is very important. And as a therapist, that's where we help them, yeah, to get a plan. So when I bring it up, my clients invariably tell me, they have no clue, Sunita. My parents have no clue. And I have always been pleasantly surprised. When the parents do come in for a session, they say, we always knew. We had our doubts. So there is this, I knew, they don't know, they know, I don't know. This is constantly happening. Yes. So that's why I said this is on a lighter note. But when does someone come out? Here's the thing, it is not the responsibility of the teacher. I'm going to say this. It's not the responsibility of the teacher. It's not the responsibility of the school to make known to the parents if there are gender identity issues or sexual orientation issues in their child. This is the child's story to tell when the child is ready. The only thing the school can do is facilitate the process for the child by being supportive. It's a call the child must make. But yes, the teacher can for sure handhold the child, and as we therapists do, give them a plan, educate them, connect them to support groups, get them professional help. There are a whole lot of things as teachers we can do in order to help them if they choose to come out. So another thing I find with youngsters, especially school-going kids, when they are struggling with gender identity and sexual orientation, they don't know who to go to for help. Not everybody has access to a therapist, because remember, if a school child needs to go to a therapist, they need money to pay the therapist. And when they go to their parents, the first question their parents are going to ask them is, why do you need to go to a therapist? And then they say, oh, I've got anxiety, I have depression. They give one of these reasons, or I have a lot of stress from school. But when they come into the clinic, the agenda, the presenting issue is entirely different. So it requires a lot of money. So the teacher, where the teacher can come in is to direct the child, perhaps to the school counselor. Okay, I'm going to say this again, our school counselors, I'm sorry. So if you are a counselor at school, at some point, you might have to share the detail with the school principal. Where I come from, this is something that is not for the counselor to tell. It is the child's story to tell. So I find that there have been some of my clients who have said, oh, I went and spoke to my school counselor about it, and the next thing I knew, I was called in by the principal to speak about it. And that puts the child in a compromising position. It instills a lot of fear in the child because, oh, now the principal knows, are they going to call my parents in? And then it also builds trust issues because the child believes, I told the counselor in good faith, I didn't know he or she would go and talk to the principal about this. So that's why I said there are very fine boundaries, there are very fine lines. As a teacher, it's for the teacher to work, to have a plan with the child. If you are confident as a teacher, if you are secure, if you have an open mind, and if you are well informed and aware, handle the child by connecting the child to support groups, getting help for the child, and at no point feeling responsible to tell whoever needs to know about the child. Did that answer your question, or did I die?
No, Sunita, it was a part of the question, but the other part which I was thinking also was about not about telling educators that, hey, this is something I would like to say about your child, but I was thinking in general, have conversations around this with parents on a regular, like we talk about other things.
So that's what I was thinking. Something here that I missed. That's why I checked it. Sorry about that, Sonali. No. Yeah, what the school can do is have workshops for parents.
Yes.
I think it should be mandatory. It should be, it's a necessity. It's not a choice. It's not by option. Hey, you want to sign in and come in for this. So maybe on the first day of school, when there are these orientation programs, I really think this is a topic that should be spoken about to parents. And it can be done in a very sensitive manner. Little pamphlets can be, printed in which there are support group numbers, even because parents also need a lot of support.
Of course.
The child has had his or her lifetime, however old they are, to deal with this, to think about it. But when they announce it to their parent and they expect a response that is kind, I often point out to my client that, hey, you had your lifetime to think about it. You have just told your parents. Obviously, they're going to react. Give them that time and space. They will come back. And so I also tell my client, then give them support group numbers, give them contact numbers of people they can speak to, because they also need hand holding. Yeah, so on the first day of school, perhaps orientation, little pamphlets can be made with support group numbers, and a little talk, maybe even a 20-minute talk is good enough to make the parents aware that our school is inclusive of all genders and all sexual orientations. Yes. Now, on that note, I also want to say another thing. Another thing is, very often when most children who have gender identity and sexual orientation issues in school, we find are either ostracized or they are bullied, they're humiliated. And so we also see a very high rate of anxiety, depression, absenteeism, self-harm, suicide among children from this community. So what do the teachers and educators do? Usually they take this child separately and then they give all the help required for the child. But what happens to all these people who are the perpetrators of this violence on the child, or who do the bullying? It's never addressed with them. Maybe they are punished for behaving badly. But I would think that's really a teaching moment for a child, for a teacher, because this is one moment when you can pick up and maybe give a life lesson about how we can be sensitive and inclusive of all genders. But many educators don't take this because they themselves are embarrassed to talk about it. And it's almost like as long as we don't speak about it, it's not something that we need to contend with. So the child is taken separately and the child is given all the possible help that the school can. But the children in the class are not taught on how they should be inclusive and how they should make this child a part of. And at that point, I would also encourage schools to involve the parents of the children in that classroom. Because children hear one thing in the classroom by the teacher and they would like to abide by that. But when they go home and they talk to their parents are not as informed as their teachers are, and their parents might tell them otherwise. So here's this poor child getting one piece of information from the teacher and another piece of information from their parents and not knowing how to behave or what's the right way to behave, because both these are important sources, right?
Right.
Of the child. So even when there is trouble in the classroom, I think when children are taught how to behave, their parents should also be brought in for a similar orientation program. I can't see you, Sonali. Ah, there you are.
Can you see me now? Yeah. Yeah.
Did I now answer your question completely?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes.
No,
I think both your explanations are important. And I was looking for, both in certain ways, but yes, certainly this part I wanted to know. And as you very rightly said that just like everything else, the school needs to probably think about, communicating that it's an inclusive one right at the beginning and then have workshops, etc. So that's something to think about. So I think we've kind of we've kind of come to an end to the first part, which is the questions that we at Tree had for Sunita. We thought were important things for us to understand and to share. Very consciously, we have kept quite a lot of time because we think that it's important for you to have time to ask Sunita questions. So we would stop the recording now, and I would leave you with all the questions that you have. Please do feel free to ask Sunita what you want to. And